Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Town Moderator Tim Goddard. I'm joined by our Town Administrator, Keith Bergman, and we're going to give you the preview and the lowdown on the two special town meetings that are scheduled for Wednesday, November 16th. And you should be receiving in the mail this week the town meeting report, which gives you information on all of the articles and explanations in plain English and what the fiscal impact is of each of the articles. And there are two town meetings actually on the 16th. One is embedded within the other. We do that with the annual town meeting in the spring and a special town meeting that's embedded within that meeting as well. And these are so special, we're giving you two for the price of one. So the date of the meeting, again, Wednesday, November 16th at the K Gymnasium at the Littleton Middle School, 55 Russell Street. And you see it on the screen there. We'll start with town meeting number one, or special town meeting number one at 7 o'clock. And we'll get as far as we can until 7:30 when the second town meeting will commence. But I think for the purposes of keeping it simple, we'll go through special town meeting number one for you and then finish up with a discussion of special town meeting number two, even though the order will be a little different that evening. The selectmen have determined the order of the articles. So the first 9 articles are financial articles. And Keith, why don't you run those down for folks at home?
Thanks, Tim, and welcome back. Glad to do this town meeting
absolutely.
Preview again. And the warrant for the special town meeting number one has 17 articles. There are 9 financial articles, which we'll go through in more detail in a moment, followed by 4 articles requiring supermajority votes, 2/3 votes of town meeting, followed by all other articles. And I should mention that the order in which they appear, financial, supermajority, followed by all other, are what the study committee to increase voter participation had recommended some years ago. So we're sticking with that procedure. So the first set of financial articles, bills of prior years, we have $1,400 in bills, a couple of bills from the police and fire departments. Article 2 is amendments to some of the schedules in the classification and compensation plan in order to implement the state minimum wage of $11 per hour as of this January 1st. And the schedules for Park and Rec, Community Education, and the Fire on-call department have dollar figures that are below $11 per hour, so we're increasing those to come in compliance with the state law. Article 3 is an adjustment to budgets that were passed for fiscal 2017 at the annual town meeting in May, and we're making 3 adjustments, adding $52,000 to the school department budget to reflect a net increase in state aid that the schools received. Another $45,000 is proposed to implement a reorganization plan for the finance and administration, which we hope to do effective January 1st. This would split the duties of our assistant town administrator for finance and budget between the incumbent, who would become the director of finance and budget, and a new position of assistant town administrator. We had found that as the Town Government Study Committee had predicted back in 2007, the time would come when the positions, the 2 newly created and upgraded positions created back in 2007 of assistant for finance and budget, plus some additional duties for the town administrator, the time would come when we need to have additional staffing and resources to be able to carry out those functions. So the selectmen have made the judgment that that time has come, and we're looking for the town's support. We're also looking to add to fund $8,400 to implement park and recreation budget changes needed to implement the minimum wage of $11 per hour that was that will be voted in Article 2. And this is because the Park and Rec fees structures have already been set and that we need to raise additional money for their general fund subsidy. Next set of financial articles, Article 4 would add $532,000 to the Debt Exclusion Stabilization Fund. Now, this fund was created at our last town meeting in May, and it would be used to defray principal and interest costs on capital projects that are authorized by a debt exclusion ballot question. So in that way, since excluded debt is added on top of everything else that goes into a tax bill, if we can find a way to reduce the excluded debt payment, then we're actually reducing what the tax bills would otherwise be. So we're glad to be able to put that sizable amount of money into that debt exclusion
And this will be a
stabilization
majority
fund.
vote, Keith, correct? With
That's
the
correct.
change in the law?
Yes, indeed. That up until under the previous law, it takes a 2/3 vote either to put money in or take money out of a stabilization fund. But as of November 7th, with the new Municipal Modernization Act, that this is one of those many tweaks to the law, and this one would require a simple majority vote in order to put money in.
Majority to put it in, still 2/3 to take it out.
Still
right?
2/3 to take it out. So the next set of articles are adjustments to the capital improvements plan, 3 additional projects for fiscal 2017, all reflecting goals that have been adopted by the Board of Selectmen for this fiscal year. We're looking to appropriate $4,800 for a comprehensive needs assessment for recreation fields. That's been requested by the Park and Recreation Commissioners. We're also looking for $20,000 for a town government building space needs assessment, which would be undertaken under the auspices of the Permanent Municipal Building Committee. And then the Board of Selectmen is requesting $252,000 for the Littleton Common Sewer Strategic Plan. Now, this money would be used to update the 2012 Smart Sewer Study, as well as conduct a full build-out analysis, which would make the town eligible for a state grant of up to $150,000 from the Department of Energy Resources. Now, the total estimated cost for the build-out and a 30% design for the sewer it's estimated to be $600,000. So the $252 in this article is only a portion of what voters might ultimately be asked for. And this is for the planning that was done back in 2012 was looking at a smart sewer with a construction cost of $4.2 million. So one of the selectmen's goals this year has been to revisit that study, which there was great progress with the Littleton Common Sewer Study Committee, Feasibility Committee, but the board would like to get back to taking a hard look at a sewer for Littleton Common.
Okay, and Keith, the funding source for this article?
The funding source for all of these
Sources?
would be from overlay surplus and from it's for this one is from overlay surplus, a total of $320,000. I should mention that there is available some $800,000 for spending at town meeting. 500 and change is proposed to go into the Debt Exclusion Stabilization Fund in the previous article. This one would propose to use overlay surplus of $320,000. That requires a simple majority vote, as does the debt exclusion transfer. Then we get to some of our larger financial projects, and we start with the fire station. And we'll be asking the voters to approve $8.9 million for expansion of the existing fire facility at 20 Foster Street. Bids were opened in late October, so that we were actually dealing with bids in hand, not estimates for what this project would cost. The successful low bid was $6.5 million. Many of the bids that we received clustered around that number, so it turned out to be a good estimate on the part of our architect. We're setting aside an additional $1 million as a contingency for construction costs that may or may not arise, together with the cost of leasing temporary quarters for the fire department for a year, and the services of the architect and engineer and owner's project manager, and other soft costs, which includes furnishings for the facility. So all together, it's $8.9 million, and of which 2.9 is proposed to come from the capital stabilization fund, and the remaining $6 million would be borrowing. Now, the use of that capital stabilization fund would reduce the town's net interest costs by some $1.1 million over the 20-year life of the bond. There had been some initial discussion that perhaps the next article, Alumni Field, should be funded with capital stabilization. Alumni Field, though, would be not a long-term bond. It would be a shorter-term bond anticipation notes. Interest costs are less, so you're not saving that much if you apply capital stabilization to it. The savings are much more significant, though, applied to the fire station, so that's the plan. Town meeting in May had approved $530,000 for design plans and bid services. We bid it out, we opened the bids, we've got the numbers. A feasibility study in the past had found that the need existed to renovate substantially our fire station. We built a brand new police station back with voter approval back in 2008, but now it's the fire department's turn. And so we're looking at a schedule. If voters approve in November, we're looking for construction to be complete by December of 2017. So we're hopeful that we'll have the voter support on that project.
Now, when would construction begin, Keith? Maybe
Construction
I
would
missed that.
construction would begin almost immediately. It would begin right away. The fire department would be moving. The fire department would move. I'll call up the schedule here on the screen. In December. First, the fire department moves its operation to temporary quarters, and then construction would begin by the end of December 2016 and would be complete a year later.
Very good.
About a year. So the next project, and we think a big draw for the town meeting, is the Alumni Fields renovation construction. That the amount being sought is a total of $4 million. The funding source would be to transfer some $164,000 left over from the design article. We'd appropriated $234,000 in May for the design of this of the Alumni Field, and only 70 of that, 70, was spent, 70,000. So we're looking to apply the balance to the construction project, and then use bond anticipation notes to cover the cost of the remaining $3.8 million amount to reach the $4 million total. As commanded by the May town meeting, there's been a design committee looking at whether to have natural or turf fields. And the advisory committee for renovation of Alumni Field is supporting the use of synthetic turf, specifically EPDM, ethylene, propylene, DN monomer, and folks can call in or email if there's a better pronunciation of that. But the scope of the project includes construction and installation of new bleachers, an amenities building, additional parking, and an improved traffic flow around the complex. All improvements would meet ADA standards, and the project would be bid out this winter, and it is set to be completed by September of 2017, this coming September. So in this case, we're dealing with cost estimates. The estimator is Gale Associates, who I guess I can say has a track record. They do with us because they worked with us on the track project.
They do a lot of field projects.
And so they've been pretty good with their cost estimates for other projects, seem to match pretty closely what the bid results are. So in the strength of that, the committee has come forward, requested the funding, and that this would be, and so this would be a 2/3 majority vote that would be required for, because there's borrowing involved for this article. So, just a couple of remaining financial articles. Article 8 would rescind unneeded borrowing authority. That it's for the Church Meadows property acquisition. We did acquire Church Meadows. We did pay the price we said we were. It's just that we didn't need to long-term borrow any of the amount. That we used short-term bond anticipation notes, so we can rescind the authorization for a permanent bond issue. In this case, for $270,000. And then the last financial article is we need an additional $19,500 to go towards the Mill Pond Restoration feasibility study. And that's, you may recall that at town meeting in May, we appropriated $67,500 from the Clean Lakes Committee Cell Tower Funds account. And since then, what has happened is that the Army Corps of Engineers has sharpened its pencil and come up with a revised cost estimate for the feasibility study. And at the current estimate of $174,000, the town's share is $87,000. So we need to come up with the increment that's asked for in Article 9. That would again come from the Clean Lakes Committee cell tower funds. If we get to go to the next level of a construction project, if the feasibility study is successful, the town would be responsible for a 35% share, or $1 million, which could also be paid by the Clean Lake Cell Tower funds if borrowed over 15 years. Now, Tim, we're moving into the category of supermajority articles, and these are each involving land, which is the reason why it's a 2/3.
Right. Anytime there's an interest of land involved, it's a 2/3 majority or supermajority vote.
So we start with the Water Department's request to acquire a 0.3 acre parcel for $200,000 for the Cedar Hill standpipe. And so this would be funded by borrowing from the Water Department, and ultimately they could pay down that debt once their Water Enterprise Fund free cash is certified later this year. So this is an important project for the Water Department, and we appreciate support of the voters. Article 11 is the first of two articles dealing with property on Boxborough Road that's proposed to be acquired at this town meeting. The first is surplus Mass Department of Transportation property. It's 5.3 acres. It's been made available by Mass DOT to the town for the appraised value of $205,000. So we have the opportunity to buy it at this town meeting or pass on it and see it go to development. In fact, the Mass DOT had put the property out for auction and was going to accept sealed bids, but the town, through the Conservation Commission and the selectmen, expressed interest in the parcel. We asked Mass DOT if town meeting could have the opportunity to acquire it. Our town meeting doesn't meet till November, and they agreed to give us until then to see if we wanted to acquire it. Now that property in Article 11 is right across the street from the other property on the warrant, and that is for Article 12, the Joyce Williams property, that is a 47-acre parcel. I should mention that both of these parcels are proposed for conservation purposes, and that the funding source would be the Community Preservation Act open space funds. So the two together are part of a continuous link of either town-owned or protected properties, and they're important parts of a system which could allow us to have trails and preserve the natural condition of this section of town. So what we're looking at for the Joyce Williams property, I should say, as of this taping, we have not yet reached agreement with the seller over what portion of the 47 acres might be acquired. We have talked about the 32 acres shown as parcel A on this plan, and we may be able to reach agreement on a total 35 acre parcel A and B, together with a trail easement which would connect parcel B with Boxborough Road. So we're in final negotiations with the seller. The Board of Selectmen may be able to reach an agreement at its meeting on November 7th. If so, we would hope to go to the Community Preservation Committee on November 9th for CPA funding. This article is written to be contingent upon receipt of a $400,000 grant from the state towards the acquisition of this project. The Board of Selectmen applied for the grant last July. It's under review. We probably will not know by the date of town meeting whether we got the grant or not, but the vote under this Article 12 is contingent upon receipt of the grant. So in round numbers, it might be, it might be $700,000 or $800,000 or more that's needed in CPA funds in order to meet the total purchase price, depending upon what we're able to agree at. So this would take a 2/3 vote. We've been working with the seller for a number of months, and we appreciate her coming forward to offer the property to the town and give us a first dibs at it. The Board of Selectmen has also inserted Article 13, which proposes to authorize the sale of 4 adjacent tax title properties on Narcissus Road. And 2 of these 4 parcels, the smaller 2 parcels, have already been authorized for the so-called tax title abutter lot sales program, because they're too small to be developed. They're under 5,000 square feet. We've had interest from abutting property owners that they would like to acquire all 4 of these parcels, but not develop them, not add a house. So in order for us to entertain that proposal, we actually have to have authorization from town meeting to restrict the development. The 2 parcels that are part of the tax title property program per se, if properties are in tax title, the Board of Selectmen does not have the authority to limit their development. We have to get that from town meeting, and so that's what we're going back to town meeting to do.
Would it be a deed restriction of some sort that would prohibit development?
Yes, it would be. It would be, and it would be proposed that the 4 contiguous lots would all be considered as one lot, and with the deed restriction of no development. Then that leaves us with 4 remaining articles in special town meeting number 1. First is an amendment to the town bylaws, which goes along with the proposal for the Finance Administration Reorganization Plan. Since the Assistant Town Manager, Town Administrator for Finance and Budget was created by bylaw, and we need to amend the bylaw to amend the title and so forth. And so we're bringing that matter to town meeting. Also, pursuant to another provision of the Municipal Modernization Act, which takes effect on November 7th, we're looking to establish yet again, an other post-employment benefits liability trust fund, this time conforming with the new law and conforming with the standards of the Government Accounting Standards Board. So it was felt to be important that we're meeting that standard. The money is set aside. We've accumulated a total of $8.3 million in our OPEB fund now. It's not going to be spent for anything other than our future obligations for post-employment benefits, and putting it in a liability trust fund can better assure those who are looking over our shoulder that that's how the money is being handled. Our unfunded OPEB liability is over $30 million, though, so we still, even with $8.3 million in the bank, we still have a way to go.
Right, very good.
Well, last two articles we have in special town meeting number 1 are voter petitions submitted by over 100, each by over 100 registered voters for the special town meeting. First is the online posting of town notices, which, according to the petitioner, seeks to adopt an alternative posting method under the procedure that's set forth by the Attorney General, indicating that the present posting position is the bulletin board behind Town Hall. This warrant article would adopt as an alternative posting method the town website. We've had some concern expressed by the town clerk and others and we've had discussion with the petitioners that while the administration is supportive of the concept of moving ahead to make sure that as much information can be available on the town website as possible, there's some concern that there may be unanticipated consequences if a notice is posted in conformance with the law, but for some reason that an electronic posting doesn't get uploaded at the right time, that there may be unintended consequences for the applicant or for others. We think we've still got some more work to do to make sure that we can deliver on the promise of upgrading the information available at the website, but we're in agreement that we need to be doing more, but there's some concern about whether this is the right measure. So we'll look forward to that discussion on the floor of town meeting. And then the other voter petition would propose that a ballot and checklist vote be required of all expenditures in excess of $250,000. Now, and so we will certainly look forward to discussion on town meeting floor about this one as well. And we have, that brings us to the one article that's in special town meeting number 2.
Which we will actually get to at 7:30 p.m. So we'll start special town meeting number 1 and get as far as we can before 7:30 or thereabouts, and then adjourn the first special town meeting and take up special town meeting number 2. So while we're discussing this will actually come up much earlier in the evening.
Right, and it's not that dissimilar. We picked 7:30 only because we're for the second town meeting, because we have had traditionally in May, we've got a 7 and a 7:30 town meeting.
Right.
So folks are used to stopping what they're doing, go to the other town meeting for business, and then go back to the main event. But this one was felt to be a very important article for Littleton. Just a year ago in 2015, we were all sorry to see the Sunny Delight bottling plant close and all of the employees laid off. And there was sort of a wrenching event in the community, and the Board of Selectmen at the time met with Sunny Delight Management, and we've since met with the holding company that acquired the property last winter, and had offered that if there's a buyer that wants to explore an economic development incentive program application, that they should contact the town, and we will work with them. So in September of this year, we were visited by Dan Gray and Don Smallwood, who operate cooperative bottling plants in the town of Ayer. They provide a line of products for PepsiCo. They are not Pepsi, but they are producing Pepsi products. And their plan is to expand the product line for Pepsi by expanding into the old Sunny Delight Very Fine facility on Harvard Road, which both Don and Dan had worked at some time. So it's a site that's very familiar to them as well as it is to the community. So a tax increment financing agreement has been negotiated by the Board of Selectmen, and we're bringing that to town meeting for approval. Patriot Beverage LLC is the name of the entity with whom we'd have the agreement, and they are investing $22.75 million into the Littleton facility to create 50 new full-time jobs, so we go from 0 to 50. The terms of the TIF agreement, TIF discounts the incremental property, provides discount on a property tax for improved value of property, and then qualifies the company for state investment tax credit from the state for jobs created. We've given 4 TIFs before for IBM on King Street, for Curtis Wright on Taylor, FIBA Technologies on Air Road, and most recently for the Potpourri Group at Distribution Center Circle. So this would be the 5th TIF that's presented to town meeting. This one is a modest one. It's only for 7 years, and it's for rather low percentage discount rates, starting at 10% in years 1 and 2, 7.5% in years 3 and 4, 5% in years 5, 6, and 7. The incremental property tax that would be discounted over that 7-year period totals $113,000. The town during that period will be collecting an additional $1.4 million that we're not collecting now as a result of this property being occupied for manufacturing. In addition to the TIF agreement, the selectmen have also entered into a host community agreement with Patriot Beverage, which would provide for a $20,000 payment back to the town by year 5. So the aggregate discount to the town, to the company rather, as a result of the 2 agreements, is about $93,000 or 5.9%. And that does qualify the company for a state investment tax credit. The vote at the town meeting in November would allow the company to proceed to a December 13th, 2016 quarterly meeting of the state's Economic Assistance Coordinating Council. In fact, that's why we had the need to bring this matter before the voters in November, so that the company could qualify to go before the state board in December. Otherwise, they would need to wait until perhaps next July or August, and we felt that it was important enough and wanted to send the signal. We've been very busy trying to find bottling companies that would want to use this iconic property, and we're very happy that they have put themselves forward.
And am I correct, the reason that it's a separate special town meeting is because it came in late in the process and couldn't have been included?
Yes, that's correct. That we had set a deadline of September 30th for the closing of the warrant, 45 days prior to town meeting. That's been a practice. There's no legal requirement for 45-day closing, but it does help us get the work of the town meeting done in order to be able to get this booklet out. This booklet requires 45 days of preparation. We'd been working with this particular company for longer than that, and what we needed was to have them reach the point where they could publicly submit a letter of intent to us, which would then trigger our ability to entertain discussions with them. So that came in, it came in on October 5th. It came in just a few days after.
So it's really a timing matter and no mystery or anything else about it?
No, it's been on our radar screen of something we would do as soon as we received notice from them. If we'd received it a few days earlier, it would have been in special town meeting number 1
Right.
somewhere, so.
Very good.
And that's it. I mean, it didn't take long to go through this, but I would predict that we'll be there for quite a while on
Might
that
be
Wednesday night.
judging on past meetings where some of these issues have been discussed, it may be a long night, but we'll take whatever time we need to get the answers that the voters want. And we thank you for joining us here today. As Keith mentioned, the town meeting report is in the mail. You should be receiving it yet this week, and it's also posted on the town website. And if anyone has any questions, I'm sure they could call Keith's office.
Be happy to talk to folks. Also, the Selectmen's next regular meeting is on Monday, November 7th, and there will be a continuing discussion of our preparations for town meeting. We'll have a fiscal update just to remind folks what the financing plan is for these articles and to answer as many questions as we can before going into town meeting.
Very good. Well, there you have it. I hope that this discussion will be helpful to you as you go to town meeting. Please read through the booklet that you get in the mail, and there's a lot of good information in there. And please do come to town meeting. The national election will be over, and you'll have had about a week to get used to the new the way that the world looks after November 8th. So please do come to the town meeting. It's Wednesday, November 16th at the K Gymnasium, 7 p.m. And for Keith and myself, we thank you for being with us.